friends, welcome back to another pottery tutorial. Today we're going to cover a much requested one and a template that took me quite a long time to organize. This is the egg tray. So we have two different versions of the egg tray. We have an egg tray for 6 eggs and one for 12 eggs. First, I'm going to show you how to make the 6 egg one. So first you want to roll out a 1 centimeter slab, and with all of the slabs here today, I do recommend letting them dry out a little bit. So you can either sandwich them between boards and let them dry out overnight if your studio is not overly dry, or just let them sit for an hour or two. You want to cut out ET1 twice and ET2 once. If you have a bigger slab, you can cut them all out of the same slab. I just ran out of room in my slab, so I'm using another piece. And then before moving on, you also want to trace through your template pieces all of the solid lines. So these are parts that we're going to be scoring or cutting out later. You want to trace through so you can properly assemble your template. Okay, now we're moving on to the 1/2 centimeter slab. So for this one, you want to cut out E4 twice. If you do have room, you can also make this out of the 1 centimeter slab, but I find that that makes the tray a little bit heavy. Okay, now we're going to start assembling. So you want to flip over your E2 template to the opposite side of where you drew on your circles, the egg holes. And along the lines where on the ET2 template it says to score, you want to score there. First, we're going to be attaching the 1/2 centimeter slab supports. So just score along the edges and attach them. Because I let my slabs dry out a little bit, I am going to be using a little bit of water to help them stick. If you're using fresh clay, this is probably not necessary. And then just make sure you line it up right to the edge and press down gently but firmly. You can blend this in a bit now. Don't worry too much about making it perfect yet because I would wait until the end when it's more stable. Where we marked it, you can see the score here marks. We're going to score that as well. That's where the sides are going to attach. At this point, it should be stable enough to stand on its own, so then you can attach the final piece. If your clay is a little on the wet side, like mine was here, you might find that the tray is bowing a little bit. In that case, just use a sponge or some sort of soft support. You could use a cloth or something to just gently push it up from the inside. Okay, now we're moving on to the 12 egg tray. So you want to use ET1, ET3, and ET5 for this project. And then this is a rather large template, so you need to paste together the two sides of ET3 and ET5. Then once again, we're going to use a 1 centimeter slab of clay here to cut out the entirety of ET3. Trace through all of those egg hole cutouts. And then we're going to use a 1 centimeter slab of clay here to cut out 2 ET1s. The rest of our 1/2 centimeter slab, we can cut out ET5 twice. And again, if you just want to use 1 centimeter slabs here, you can. I just find that using a 1/2 centimeter slab here makes the whole egg tray a little bit lighter, a little bit nicer to handle. Okay, and then you want to score along the edges of ET3 where it's marked score here. This is going to be where we attach the 1/2 centimeter supports. So score along the edge. I'm using a little bit of water here to help it attach since my slabs are a bit dried out. And then just press down. Okay, now we are going to score along those lines that are marked score here on your template. Flip over your egg tray and attach it to the side. These lines should match up. Don't worry right now about blending everything perfectly. We're going to wait until our piece is a bit more firmed up before we make everything nice and clean. Okay, now we are going to set our egg trays aside overnight so it can dry until it's leather hard. How long you have to wait until it's leather hard really just depends on the climate in your studio. If it's very dry, if it's very warm, it'll dry faster. I work in a basement, so it's cool and damp, so overnight works just fine for me. Okay, it's the next day now, and we're going to tidy up and cut out all of our egg holes today. So you can see I'm using my rib to sort of scrape off any extra clay, try and make those lines as smooth as possible, and bevel the edges as well. So you can just keep doing this until you're happy with the piece. There's really no right or wrong here. Once our piece is nice and smooth, it's time to cut out all of our egg holes. I find this part to be a little bit tedious, but just go in ideally with an X-Acto knife to cut out those holes as precisely as you can, and then I just like to use my finger to smooth it out. After you cut out your egg holes, I didn't show this in the video demonstration, but after you cut out your egg holes, if you want to, you can also use the egg tray side cutout guide. That's a piece that's included in your templates to cut out a little handle on the sides of the egg trays. So you do this exactly the same way that you cut out the egg holes at the same leather hard status. And I'm just repeating all those steps for the 12 egg tray. My 12 egg tray barely fit into my kiln. I had to remove the bottom shelf and just biscuit straight on the kiln floor, but it did fit. This piece is about 48 centimeters long, fully assembled. So make sure you have kiln space for that. As usual, I'm just using a very simple white glaze over my templates, and I find it easiest to dip them sort of like half and half. And once again, my 12 egg tray was a little bit too long to fit into my glaze bucket, so I just went back in later with a paintbrush to patch up those unglazed bits. It's going to be fine. And then for wiping the bottom, you just need to wipe the parts of the egg tray that touch the table when it sits on it. So the parts that would attach to the kiln shelf, you just need to wipe those off. And here's our final result. We have 2 egg trays. Whether you've got a carton of eggs that's a dozen or 6 pieces only, you've got all the options here. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoyed this template, and I'll see you next month for a new one. Bye, friends.